Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star Atlas Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 131. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Just look for weekly recap newsletter number 179. So just a quick summary of things that happened this past week in Star Atlas. Sim, Season 1, Chapter 1 launched. The Atlas Brew was all about the new Zinc blockchain from Star Atlas. And that was it for the week. We'll go ahead and talk about that. But before I do, just a couple things to mention on things I'm doing in Star Atlas. First, of course, is my main website, intergalacticherald.com. It's a great Star Atlas resource website. Has a great beginner guide. Other guides are linked to that from other content creators. Do have some directories of content creators, Star Atlas guilds, builders, tools in Star Atlas. You can also catch my different recaps. There's the weekly recap newsletter, there's the audio recaps, summaries of the Star Atlas events, and I do have one new thing which you can actually subscribe to get an email update each time the Star Atlas team posts in their Discord in their announcement channels. So all that can be found at intergalacticherald.com. Also have a Star Atlas merch store, very small at the time, at intergalacticgear.com, just selling some mugs and some artwork. Again, hope to expand that out, but just balancing time on other Star Atlas projects, business, personal things. Summer, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, so lots of things there. On that website, intergalacticgear.com, do have a merch survey. I'd love to have you fill that out and give me some feedback on what kind of merch for Star Atlas you'd be interested in. And then I'm also trying to start a community for Star Atlas gamers who don't want to join guilds, so a non-guild. It's at intergalacticcoalition.com. Do have an interest survey there. If that's something you might want to join, please check that out and fill out that interest survey. So as far as, again, things that happened this past week in Star Atlas, I did mention the Sim launch. I think that was on Wednesday. Had a couple of glitches, but it is launched. I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter mentioning that they're taking a look at that and playing and getting experience. Do check that out. I think it's holosim.staratlas.com. But anyways. And then the big one, more engaging one for me at least, was the past Atlas Brew. This one was all about the new Zinc token / blockchain / service. So this was announced a couple weeks ago at the Star Atlas Town Hall. And again, a quick summary is it is a new Solana L1, so level 1 clone. I still don't know all the blockchain's words, so it's a Solana virtual machine, but it doesn't mean anything to me. But the big key is that going forward, all of the Star Atlas gaming mechanisms will start running on this new blockchain. And the biggest benefits are twofold. One is stability and performance, because unlike the current Solana blockchain, which could have everything going on, this would just be dedicated to, or maybe not dedicated, but definitely prioritizing Star Atlas resources or gameplay. Additionally, the blockchain will have reduced fees, which is one of the issues with currently Solana. So each transaction costs a little bit of Solana, and it could substantially add up as you do many transactions playing things like Star Atlas Sage. The new blockchain will have less fees. Or actually, they did clarify this in the brew, and I guess it's a good point. The transaction, there'll still be the same number of transactions, but the cost for a transaction, hence a fee, is directly related to the price of the Zinc token. So not less fees, less cost for the same number of fees, but the idea is that Zinc will be worth less, or per token or per percentage will be less, and so that's why the fees will be substantially lower in cost, but not in the number of fees. But it was interesting, getting into the details, that if Zinc somehow was valued at the same amount as Solana, then the fees would cost a lot. But the way they rationalize around, one, that's a good problem to have, and I guess I understand that. If one token of Solana is worth $100 and one token of Zinc is worth a penny, there's your 99, maybe not 99%, but a lot lower. But if that same Zinc token was worth, whatever I said, $100, then if you own it, you have $100. Yeah, so I guess that all is fine. But the way that they would counteract that was that Star Atlas themselves and the Star Atlas DAO would each be validators. So each time they process a transaction, they would make Zinc tokens as compensation for running the validators, and then they could pass it along with actually reducing the fees, which is what they were thinking they would do for Solana. So anyways, again, if you really want all the details, you really need to listen to the Atlas Brew. StarAtlas TV has the full recording of that. You can listen to my AA summary, but we'll get into this with Jeff. But anyways, point of all that is the two main reasons to have Zinc are for better performance, meaning they can sculpt the blockchain to focus more on Star Atlas things. And initially out of the gate, the fees will be less because the token price is less. But if it were to grow, that's only good across the board. And they have a way to mitigate that, which they were originally planning to do. Win-win and all that. That was supposed to be a summary, which it wasn't, and it got into detail. Let me go through the highlights of what I at least picked out from the Atlas Brew. It was structured as a Q&A session, so lots of questions. Now, I think most of the questions had already been pre-sent in, which is fine. Again, you're looking for the answers, not necessarily where the questions are. So one was about this bridge, and again, still not 100% sure on blockchains, but because it's a clone of Solana, you may want to move it between, and that's using a bridge. So it's possible, but again, not really sure if I understand all the mechanics of it, but I guess if it exists, that's all that really matters. So you're not isolated. They did mention that there will be a crypto wallet partner, but I'm pretty sure the name wasn't mentioned. I guess we'll see what that is. I thought at the town hall they said since it's Solana, it should work with everything, but yeah, I'm not sure there. So we'll probably learn more. They did answer some more questions related to this, quote, cold start problem when new blockchains nobody has any reason to go to them because there's nothing on them, but this one will be started immediately with Star Atlas. And they were showing some statistics that the number of transactions just from Star Atlas on the Solana blockchain is more than other blockchains, so this should not be a problem. So again, just good to know, and don't understand it fully, but good to know. There's some questions about who can become these validators to process all the transactions, and apparently it'll be not a request, but they'll reach out to people who want to sign licensing agreements. But if I remember correctly from the town hall, it's not like they need a lot of them, and then someday they'll open it up to anybody. But again, we want to control it. And again, if the ultimate goal is performance of the Star Atlas products, that makes perfect sense. There's a couple questions about paid subscriptions to Zinc and what those would entail. I'm not opposed to this. Again, definitely a revenue source, but I think it's a little premature because they always caveat it. Well, this is what we're thinking. Again, until it has a price, a frequency, and a list of what you get for it, again, makes sense, but nothing at this point really to truly understand. There was some talk about whether or not there'll be any perks for quote-unquote old gamers that have been with Star Atlas for a while, but it was again reiterated. The whole point is if all the people who have been playing Star Atlas for years have a leg up, then it'll de-incentivize anybody new from coming in, because the idea is that this is supposed to be a marketing thing to get new people to join who then can play the Star Atlas products, get experience, which that experience will directly to the size of your airdrop. So again, instead of just being sent things for no reason, you actually have control over how much tokens you could get in an airdrop. On the surface, I do agree with that. It would be nice to get something, but as has been mentioned, anybody who's starting fresh doesn't understand anything. So buying a ship is complicated, lockers, and definitely Sage and things like that. So again, I think it's a balancing act, but it makes more sense to start everybody out on a level playing field so nobody feels like they are disadvantaged immediately. But we'll see. And again, it could turn out to be, I think they threw out an idea like we'd get a special name or something like that. So a perk that's cool, but not changing your airdrop allocation or something. One other question that came up, or an answer that came up, was that by having this blockchain, they can actually do some unique on-chain things that they can't do on Solana because they actually control it. And I think this was mentioned in the context of hiding player movements, like a fog of war type of thing, because with blockchains, everything's visible, then you can go find anybody. So again, that actually seems like a good game mechanic. And then the last thing that was mentioned near the end was, again, that ultimately the goal is not necessarily just to build a video game, but to really build a, quote, decentralized cyber nation. And blockchains are one method that a lot of people talk about to invent decentralization, cyber nation, metaverse, whatever term you want to use. Again, that was some of the compelling thoughts on why Star Atlas was interesting over any other traditional game, because there was the blockchain feature, there was the decentralized feature, and this Ready Player One type world experience. That kind of goes back to a lot of people at the beginning. Does Zinc really make sense? Should it really be there? And I think we're getting more used to the knowledge of this is coming, it does fit more, but I'll get into that when I go in my state of Star Atlas. Anyway, so that's the thoughts that I had, things that brought up in the Q&A for the Atlas Brew for the Zinc. Again, if you want to listen to the whole presentation, Star Atlas TV has recording on their YouTube channel. If you just want a summary, please come to mine, intergalacticherald.com, and look around for my event recaps, and you can get I think it's 3 or 4 minute AI summary audio version there, or just subscribe to my podcast and you'll get it yourself. Moving on to the next section, just talking about the state of Star Atlas. So again, first thing was the Holosim launch. There were a few issues at the gate. I don't know. Again, video games in general, never launch perfectly, not to whatever. And the Holosim development team has always been very responsive to that. And it seems like from announcements, those were fixed quite quickly. It seems like there's already a good number of players. Again, I saw lots of people talking about it on Twitter, even a few kind of newer people to the community, so that was great. Personally, I'm still unfortunately going to stay away from it, but again, not for lack of interest, but just lack of time. I've been working on other things. Again, like I mentioned, it's summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. Kids are going back to school and this upcoming week, and again, it's just not something that immediately jumped out. Totally glad that this product exists. I think it's a great intro for people because it is browser-based. Saw some people post on Twitter that they're playing on their tablets or phones, so that's all, maybe not phones, tablets. So I think that's all great. And again, it's set up with seasons and chapters, and I think it's more of when I have dedicated time to play. And again, I think if you've been a long-time listener to the podcast, my ultimate game playing is space exploration / put down a claim stake somewhere, build up my little, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure I really like the idea of a total supply chain, but the idea of mining resources, exploring, defending my base or whatever, things like that. Again, a little more of a solo player. I'm not really interested in joining a Star Atlas guild, though I would like to hang out with other people who also don't want to join out guilds. Again, another plug for my intergalacticcoalition.com website. But yeah, Holosim just to be at the end, it is really time, because everybody talks about, many people are talking about it being very fun. So time, not having enough time to really put into it, but also just the impermanency of it. And again, that's not a negative. It's just my gameplay style. There was one post in the Foundation room from the Chipto, who is leading up the UE5, talking about cheating in UE5 and some of the new things, because this is the first time the UE5 version of the game has progression and rewards at the end. Didn't really understand exactly what, but yeah, still early versions, I guess. And again, good to figure this stuff out now, because I know lots of people have talked about lots of cheating that goes on mainstream games like Call of Duty and things like that. Not surprising, but also, I guess, goes with the territory. And then the last big topic, again, some of my thoughts on Zinc. One thing, I had to change up my Sage play. I'd finished some things, so I had to go in and move my fleet manually, and it just didn't work, and it didn't update. And again, I was just reminded that, yeah, this is the frustrating part. And why is it not working? Again, it's Solana. It's busy at that moment or whatever, because it did something today and it felt fine. So again, I think if for no other reason, Zinc is a great benefit to just improve the performance, where if what I just experienced this morning never happens, unless truly like the whole game's down or something, I think people move on and start talking about it as a game as opposed to this just doesn't work. Now it's been a week later from the official announcement and on this Q&A, because it kind of came out of the blue and there was no pre-leaks or anything like that, it is starting to feel more and more like this is truly a well thought out product. They have put a lot of thought into how to launch it. Again, they keep talking about stuff will come out in September, stuff will come out in December. They always caveat that if everything goes right. But the fact they're even saying dates, they're making partnerships, they're talking to people, they're structuring it as an independent company, they're trying to get funding for that to hire direct employees for it. And even as mentioned twice, this is not something they've thought up just out of the blue. This has been an ongoing process for a couple of years. Yeah, it's all feeling like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Let's talk about the details and things like that. On the other hand, it does seem a little counterproductive, but that thought is diminishing quickly as the weeks go on, because it was mentioned again at the Q&A at the Atlas Brew that this is really an next extension of what they were talking about for this product called Apollo, which is basically they were going to run their own blockchain or something. And so it's, hey, if we're going to do this, why don't we just make it a totally independent blockchain that isn't totally specific to the game? Maybe can entice other games to come on it, or again, independent people. Totally also allows for this whole concept of introducing new people who just want to get the airdrops, who might play the game. But again, it does just, again, continue to start feeling that this is very well thought out. Not everything makes sense. Maybe not everything is, again, knowing what we knew, a lot of questions were about, does this hurt the current tokens and stuff like that? Again, I don't totally get all the tokenomics, all the things like that, but as we get more information, it all feels very well thought out and moving there. And again, maybe this is where I am getting more excited on the pure blockchain aspect of this. The potential upsides of just getting into a new token early, obviously, that's the classic thing. If you buy stock in a company as soon as it comes out as an IPO, that's the best time to buy it. If you get into a token right away, that's the best time to do it. Again, all that assumes that the things go well and they have long-term value, but is how things work and people want to get in at the ground floor. Yeah, so there's admittedly a lot of now intrigue in that. What would that actually mean, and how does this relate back to the paid subscriptions and all this other stuff? So anyways, again, it's for not hearing anything about this to literally a week later going, yeah, makes sense, move on. I guess that shows a really thought out plan, and I guess we'll always see how execution goes. But they did mention that HoloSim Current is running on some sort of pre-release beta, whatever, of Zinc. So again, this technology is not foreign to them. They're not inventing it. They've been implementing it internally and or now in a public product for a while now. And then the last topic, just on State of Star Atlas, and I added this on as a last minute addendum because I realized, wait a second, it's the weekend, Saturday for me, and the next town hall comes up this Wednesday. And again, absolutely nothing has been mentioned. They did say something in the Atlas Brew that, oh, just mark it on your calendar, but that was it. And I was like, and nothing. It almost feels underhyped, but there's no announcement. So again, looking at the first two, we had an announcement. The first one was definitely going to be about UE5. Second one was you're going to be blown away, and it was a combination HoloSim and Zinc. Now, HoloSim, in hindsight, seemed like an actual progression. They closed one down, and then a week later, they launched the next public version, and there was a little bit of marketing behind it to announce it, so that all cool. So nothing for this one, but I'll stick with what I said at the last episode. It just feels like it's a foregone conclusion. This will be about C4, and to me anyways, the mystery will be whether or not we get a release date for the public version of it. And again, as I speculated last week, if C4 is going to run on Zinc and Zinc is coming out in December, it just feels like so many things are already basically in the glide slope and that they're just moving forward. But as soon as I said that out loud, I realized one thing. Launching a blockchain in December and a new version of the game, that feels like something they shouldn't do. Oh, and then take a winter break. Hopefully this isn't, well, again, early December, middle December, I guess it can pull it off. But if December keeps bringing up and anything slips and you have the holidays, yeah, it feels like there's a great opportunity either to hit your deadline or this slips into the next year, which again is fine. And again, I really think Zinc needs to be the priority because it's the foundation they're building the game on. And again, they've already said that C4 will run on Zinc. That feels like the two have to be together. So anyways, there's my speculation for the next town hall. When you listen next week, I guess we'll know. Anyways, and then the final thing, just talking about my journey playing Star Atlas. Again, I've been focusing on Star Atlas Sage, collecting a lot of resources to craft a Mamba X, which may or may not be available anymore, but going to just stick with my plan, and we'll see what happens. Either yeah, we'll just see. Did think I last week had finished moving all the titanium ore, so that one's done. I've been focusing on luminite. Got some, actually my big fleet, because it's a much shorter distance, actually moved everything, and so it ran out of more to move, so I moved it into a mining row. It's mining luminite, ran out of food immediately, so I had to buy some food to keep it going. So again, just juggling that, trying to reach that goal. And then the star base I'm at has the next component, which I think is silica. I have to go back to my list. But anyway, so yeah, just mining. Once I get enough, do back some moving, probably run out of fuel again, so I got to mine some hydrogen. So yeah, just feeling this steady thing of mine, move, mine, craft, fuel type of thing. So anyways, moving along pretty good there. So that's pretty much it. So anyways, thanks for listening. Again, if anybody would like to be a guest on podcast, definitely open that idea. I'd love to chat about the week in review. If you're a Stardust content creator and want to talk about your stuff, great. Builder, totally open. Team members, talk about beginner type topics, also open. Please do check out my website at intergalacticherald.com. You can find this podcast, you can find my guides, you can find resources, directories, recaps, email newsletters. Again, please check that out at intergalacticherald.com. Please check out my merch store at intergalacticgear.com. Definitely want to buy a mug. I got many options there. Fill out merch survey. And finally, if you're interested in maybe joining a future Stardust community of gamers who aren't joining guilds, please check out intergalacticcoalition.com. Other than that, that was the week in Star Atlas. I'm Matt with Intergalactic Herald. Have a great week ahead.